Hi everyone, welcome back to Salesforce Velocity course. So till now we have seen how to create an Omniscript and how to create data raptors, and we also checked out different types of data raptors that we can create in Velocity. All right, so this particular session is dedicated to how we can pre-fill data in Omniscript. Okay, so let me just lay out the scenario for you first, the requirement that we are going to achieve. All right, so I will quickly go ahead and just tell you what we are going to do. So the scenario would be something like this. Okay. So in my Omniscript, I will have two screens. Okay. This would be my first screen and this is going to be my second screen. Okay. So in my first screen, I will have a text box where user will enter an account name. Okay. Account name. All right. And there will be a button here. Okay. Next button, and when user enter an account name and clicks on the next button, then a data raptor, okay, export data raptor should be called, and it should give us the results back accordingly, according to the input that user have entered here. Okay, so let's say basically this will work like an account search. Okay, so whatever you enter here, right, ABC, so basically your data raptor should search for all the accounts that have this particular keyword. Okay, and it should give you back the results. Okay, so here in between we will have that server call, okay, the data raptor call. But in the next screen, okay, here I will have four fields, basically four or five, how many fields, whatever you want. So let's say if I have entered an account here, okay, and I click on next, and in my data raptor, let's say I am querying four fields of the account based on the search. Okay, so ABC, let's say if there is one account that data raptor could find in Salesforce, but then from that account, what are the fields that I'm fetching, right? So let's say I'm fetching ID, name, industry, and description. Okay. So whatever the result I get in my data raptor call, okay. So those results I want to pre-fill in the controls available here. Okay. So here, let's say I'll have these, right? So here I will fill name, and then here industry, and here description. All right. So basically this is a very simple scenario, but the pre-filling of data here, right, that will happen. This will, you will not enter anything manually. Okay, so based on whatever you enter here, when you click on next, the data raptor call should happen. It should give you back the results, and then that results should get populated on this screen, right? So let's just go ahead and see how we can get started with it, and how we would have to do the mapping and everything, and how we have to pre-fill the data on this screen. Okay, so before we actually jump on to on this example, I want to still lay out the steps that we are going to perform. Okay, so let me just do the steps for you, like write down the steps quickly, really quick. So we are going to first create an Omniscript. Okay, then create a data raptor, or we can do both, both ways. I mean, either you can create the Omniscript first and then data raptor, or let's just do like this. Okay, I'm going to create the data raptor first, and then I will create the Omniscript, and then call the data raptor in the Omniscript. Okay, and then then there will be steps for as in how you will have to map the fields in order to pre-fill the data on the second screen. Okay, so we will just because there are very minor steps involved over there, so let's just not, I'm not going to list that down, but these are the three basic steps that we have to do. Okay, so along with this there are other steps involved as well, but we will see that as we go along with the example. Okay, so let's just go ahead and create a data raptor. So first of all, what as per the example that I just explained, what do we want the data raptor to do? We want the data raptor to fetch account details, right, based on some input value that user will provide on the Omniscript. Okay, so in your data raptor, first of all, your data raptor should be able to export data from Salesforce, right? So we are going to use export data raptor. That's point number one. Point number two is that in your data raptor, we have to, because on your UI screen, you are going to, your user will be providing some keyword, right, on that search text box, and then it they will hit next button, correct? So that user input, whatever the user will be providing in that, that we have to pass in the DataRaptor as variable, right? So that DataRaptor can use that variable to query the Salesforce data and give us the results back. All right. So let's just go ahead and start with the DataRaptor and you will understand. So I'll move to DataRaptor first. This is like, quick demo that I can show you that I've already created. Although we are going to create everything from the scratch again, but this is the same thing that we are trying to achieve. Okay. So let me quickly show you. So this is my search screen, right? Enter account name. So here, let's say if I enter out front and if I click on next, it is pre-filling all the data, right? Account name, account ID, industry, description. So this is what I was talking about in the scenario. All right. So let's just go ahead and do it from scratch. So Omnistudio Data Raptors. And I will go ahead and create a new Data Raptor. So here, let's just give the example as prefill example. Okay. And this one should be extract. This is fine. JSON. Okay. And let's just save this. So first of all, like what is the query that I should be writing, right? Because I want to fetch details from account, right? So the query will go like this. Select ID, name, industry, and description, right? Description from account where name like. So here in the name like, this is nothing but whatever the user provides, right? In that first screen of the account search, that is the variable that we want to put here. Okay. So this is the query that we'll try to achieve in the DataRaptor. So here under extracts, the first thing you need to do is select the object. So I want to fetch from account, right? So I selected account. Okay. And then in the output here, basically I want to filter on name, right? So account where account name like. So we need to search for the like operator here. So sorry, like. And here we need to define the variable, right? This variable, whatever the variable the user would be passing. Okay. So let's just give the variable as user input. Okay. So this step is done. So we are going to query from account where name like user input, whatever the user is going to enter, right? So we have one part of the query. Now we also have to define what are the fields that we want to fetch, right? So for that, we'll go to output and here we'll click on plus and start defining the. So the first field that I want is ID, okay? Account ID. So account ID and this output JSON path, right? Whatever the name you want to give for account ID in the output JSON path, that is what you're going to keep. Okay, so account, and I'm going to give a parent node, okay, account colon, so that like, I'll have the structure with a parent node. Okay, so account dot, and I will give the name as account ID. So you can see here, right? I already have a parent node and the first field that I have is account ID. Now let's just go ahead and create the second one. The second one that I want is name. Okay, so account name, and here account and name. Okay, this is fine. Let's just take another one, industry and description as well. Industry. Okay, and then description. All right, so I have all the four fields here. So ID, name, industry, and description. Okay, so this is my query, which is going to apply this filter. And these are the fields that I want to fetch. And I have provided the mapping, okay, that whatever is in my JSON, what it should map to. It should map to these fields from the account object. All right, now let's just go to preview and provide a JSON and No, we have to not the JSON, we have to provide a parameter, right? Because I have created a variable over here, right? The variable is this user input, and we'll go to preview. This is the key, right? This is the variable. And let's just, this part we are doing just to try out whether this is all working or not, right? So let me just give anything, right? So media and execute. So basically now this should return me all the accounts where the name, if the account name contains this word media, right, then it should return me those accounts. So I'll click on execute, and here you can see, right, account. So this account has the name has contains media keyword, right? So global media, and it also returned the other three fields that I've mentioned in the output. Okay, these are the four fields that we have mentioned and mapped in the output. And then there is another account, outfront media, as well. Okay, so two accounts it returned us. So here if you see, our data raptor is ready. Okay, we are querying from the account, and we have also given a variable over here, and in the output we have defined the fields that we want to fetch, and we have done the mapping, and we also tried this out that it is working fine. Okay, so the next step is to create the Omniscript. Okay, we are done creating the data raptor. Now let's just switch and create Omniscript. I'll do that in other window. Okay, so let me go to Omniscripts, and let's just create a new Omniscript. Okay, so here um, let's just give the similar name, Prefill. Okay, account details, right? And here you can give any name. If you are following like a project structure, then you can give that name as well, or you can just give the account, sorry, the object name. Okay, let's just save it. So this is our Omniscript. Okay, I'm not going to explain each and everything from the basic about Omniscript. If you have no idea about Omniscripts, please watch the previous sessions where we have done the introduction of Omniscripts. Okay, so I'm just directly going ahead and implementing the steps. Okay, so in the script configuration you can see the configuration, the basic details of this Omniscript. And in the step one, right, what is our plan? Our plan is to create, let me just open the existing one, right, where I was showing you the example, and we will just follow along. So like the demo that I've created, right, I want to show you that demo. So this is the one. And if I go to preview, this is the first screen, right? So we want to enter a text box and make the field required, and then include a button next. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. So for input box, right, so in step one, we have to include a text box. Okay, so text, you just need to search for text under input and just drag and drop it inside the text. Okay, inside this step. So this is text, and here let's just give some name over here. Okay, okay, this is our step one. And also we have to make the field required. So I am just making it as required, and let's just preview this. So the field is there, but the label is inside, right? So let's just keep the label outside. Okay, and let's preview this again. Account name, and then we have this, or let's just make the label a little bit more. Search account name. Okay. All right, right. Now we also want that next button. So next button will automatically come when you include another step over here. Okay. So let's just go ahead and include another step first. So you'll find the steps under group, I believe. Yeah. Steps. So here in step two, what are the things that we want? In step two, this is the demo one, right? So let's just check the, so account name, account ID, industry, and description, right? So I will create four text boxes. Okay. So under input, let's just go ahead and create a text. Okay. And I will simply copy this 3 more times. Okay. So 2. Okay. So from here, let's just start giving it. So account ID and this is account ID, and let's just give the account name. This is the unique identifier for the element. Okay. And here account name. I think we have already used this unique name inside this, right? So let's just change it. I'll just rather keep it as name. Okay. Then we'll come here, and this is for industry. So account industry. Okay. And then description. So account description. Okay. Let's just check the preview. Now you will be able to see the next button. Okay. So here is our search bar. Okay. And I will just enter anything over here, and I'll click on next. And you can see all the 4 fields, right? Again, I'll just want to keep the label outside. So here, here, label outside of field, preview. All right, let's click on next. And these are the 4 fields, but currently there are no values, right? So the first thing that we have to do is we know that DataRaptor is the one which is returning us the values, right? Which is going to search. So there are multiple steps involved here. So the first thing that we have to do is call the DataRaptor, right? And when should we call the DataRaptor? So if you see this, right? If I go back to this step, okay, previous screen, okay. So just keep in mind one thing, right? That your DataRaptor is expecting a variable, right? Is expecting a variable. This is not the DataRaptor, this one. Okay. Your DataRaptor is expecting a variable, right? User input. And when are you getting this variable? In your Omniscript, you are getting that variable after you enter some value in the step 1, right, into this search box, because this is nothing but the user input, right? So after you enter something, and that is when you're getting the value, right, for user input. So you should be calling your DataRaptor after step 1, so that your DataRaptor will will have this value. Okay, will have this value. Because if you call the DataRaptor before step 1, then it will try to find the user input value, the variable, right? But you will not have that available. So you need to call your DataRaptor after step 1. Okay, so let's just do that quickly. So in actions, DataRaptor action. Okay, so after step 1. So this is my DataRaptor. You can also keep this DataRaptor action inside step 1, but then it will be displayed like a button. Okay, and you would have to click on that button to get the data. But I'm keeping it outside. Okay, you can try that out if you want, but you would have to click on that button to get the data. Okay, so this is my DataRaptor. Let's just give it some name. Okay. Fetch account details, and you can basically give the same over here. Details. Okay, now you have created an action for fetch account details, right? Fetch DataRaptor action. Now you have to mention, right, which DataRaptor you want to call. So what is the DataRaptor that we created here? The DataRaptor is prefill example, right? So let's just go ahead and search for this DataRaptor. So in the interface, you need to search for this DataRaptor. So this is the DataRaptor that we are using. So this is okay. Now the next step is that what are the values that the DataRaptor is expecting? Okay, so it has one variable, right? The variable is user input. So let's just copy this. Okay. And then in the input parameters, right, you need to add an input parameter. And this value, right, filter value, this is nothing but what is the variable name that you have given in the DataRaptor. So in the DataRaptor, I have given this name, right, user input. The variable name here is user input. Now, what is that field from this, from the previous step, or it could be in the same step as well. But what is this field from the Omniscript that you want to map to this particular user input, right? what is that field which will send the values to this user input? So that is what we have to search here, the data source. Okay. So the data source here is, let's just check the element name for this. Okay. The element name for this account name. Okay. So it has to be account name. So this one. Okay. Account name. So this is the mapping. Okay. So basically when your data raptor is called, the user input variable, it will get the value from this particular search box, right? Whatever the user has entered here. Okay, so this input parameter mapping is to be done here. Once you select your data raptor, after that you have to define the input parameter. And similarly, let's say if you have more conditions, right? There's just one, but let's say if you have more and or any other conditions, and if you have multiple variables, then you have to create input parameters for those as well. Okay, so in this scenario we are just using one, so this is fine. All right, now let's just go ahead and preview. So in preview, we will just see the result, okay? What comes, we will just click on debug, because on the UI, we have not done the mapping and stuff, right? So on the second screen, you are still going to see everything as blank. So rather, we'll just check the debug so that we'll get to know that whether we are getting the values in response or not, okay? So here, let me just, open the debug panel. So right now it is empty, okay, the debug panel, but this is my screen. And if I click on next, then after step one, this DataRaptor call should happen, right? So if I click on next, see, we got the response back, okay, from DataRaptor. So if you check the response here, you can see we entered a keyword of outfront, right? So we got one account back where the name is outfront media. It has also industry description and account ID, right? So we are getting the response back. Now the challenge is how how we are going to map this response to these fields on the screen too, correct? So for that, there is a easier way. So let's just open the data here. Okay, and in the data you see some JSON, right? So there's one more thing that I want to tell you before we actually just go ahead and do the mapping. Let me copy the JSON from here and let me just open a new screen. So this is the JSON, okay? And in the JSON, let me remove everything else. So this is for step one, this is for step two. And if you see, everything is null in step two, right? Because your data raptor response created a different parent node. Okay, so this is actually this is the first thing that you need to resolve, right? Because your Omniscript will not be able to understand, basically it will not be able to map values until and unless your JSON structure in your data raptor and the JSON structure in your Omniscript matches. Okay, but what is the JSON structure that you have in your data raptor? The JSON structure that you have in your data raptor is this, right? It is this. It has a parent node as account. Okay, and what is it in the Omniscript? It is like this. But what is happening? It has created two different nodes, right? One for step two and one for account. So the first thing that you need to do is, so you know what, let me show you two ways. There are two ways, right, to do it. So let me go back to DataRaptor and solve this issue first, okay? But before we solve this issue, let's just complete the mapping, okay? So in Omniscript, basically just to map everything, I just have to map the element name from the DataRaptor JSON elements, okay? So this is my screen too, and let's just go to each and every field. So for example, account ID. In account ID, we have this element name, okay? But the element name that we should be putting here is from the JSON. And what is that element name, okay? So here, this is what I have copied here, right? So the account ID, right? This account ID. So the name is same, so we don't need to change it. Element name, basically whatever you have given there, it should be same, okay? And then inside name, we have name, okay? So this is fine. We haven't given anything different, okay? And then for account industry here, so the name from the file is this, okay? So this should be, so basically you're changing your unique identifier and you're mapping it with the keys that are available in the JSON, okay? And these are nothing but the keys, okay? And then account description, we have the key is description, okay? So this is description. All right, but so basically to get the value from the data raptor and display on these fields, for that, we have done every basic thing, but still you're not going to see any results. And that is what I was trying to explain earlier. So let's just first try this out. So if I click on this, you're still seeing everything blank, right? So basically we did all the mapping. Then why is it blank? It is blank because the data, if the JSON structure that it is creating is not like, this is not as expected, right? The expectation is to have only one structure in step two, right? So basically your step two, if you see what it is creating, what velocity is creating for you, it is creating step two as parent node and it is keeping everything inside, and then it is not fetching any details, right? And the moment it gets the response from the DataRaptor, it is creating another parent node and it is populating these values. So what we have to do is we have to make some changes so that the values that we are getting here, it should be directly, it should be exactly same as what we get in DataRaptor. Okay. So here in DataRaptor, we have just this, but in Omniscript, we don't have just this. We also have this, right? So it's not matching. It has two parent nodes. But here in DataRaptor, we have just one parent node. So let me show you the first way, okay? So the first way is to just remove this parent node, okay? So in the output JSON path, I'm just going to remove the parent node. Okay, so description. So now you see the parent node is gone, right? This is working. Okay, let's go back to the Omniscript and clear data and then execute this again, okay? Click on next. And now you can see that every detail for that particular account got pre-populated, right? So if you observe this, right, the step one was to enter the account name on screen one. And now all these four information that we are sending from DataRaptor, right, it is getting populated under step two. All right. So basically the other thing that you can do is something like this. Let's go back to your DataRaptor and let's change it the way it was. Okay. So here we had account colon, right? And then so basically I just made it the way it was before, right? And I'll show you how you can resolve it from Omniscript. Okay. So here still wanted to check if it's working or not. All right, so here now if I clear the data and refresh it, it's not going to work, right? Because we just made the structure the way it was before. So out front, okay, and then next. Now you can see everything is blank, right? So what we can do is this step two, we can change the name of step two to account, okay? So where is step two? This is step two. And here, so that this will ensure that we are kind of trying to match the structure with the structure that we have in the DataRaptor. Okay. So now we have changed this, right? Now let's just go ahead and check in the preview. So I'll just clear everything and try this out again. All right. You see it worked, right? Now, if you see the JSON structure, it replaced that step two with account because we changed the name, right? We relabeled the step two name as account so that we can match with the structure that we have in the DataRaptor. All right. So this is how you can basically pre-fill the data in Omniscript. So let's just quickly go through the steps that we did here. Okay. The first thing what we did was we created an we created a DataRaptor which is returning us accounts, and we also passed a variable in the DataRaptor. Okay. So if I go back to the DataRaptor, this is my object. This is the variable that I created for the filter condition. And these are the fields that I'm fetching. Okay. And I also tested this, right? This is preview is nothing but for unit testing. Okay. So I tested this particular DataRaptor by passing the values to the variable and saw that, okay, this is working perfectly fine. Then I went ahead and created an Omniscript, created one step where I created a search box for account name. Okay. And then I did a server call to the DataRaptor, and then I mapped all the values for the text boxes that are available on step 2 with the key names that we have in the DataRaptor. So for every value, I just mapped the element name with the key value that we have in the over here, right, as the keys. So we just did that mapping. And then the other thing that we did was to make sure that the structure, the JSON structure that we have in the Omniscript, that should be equal to the JSON structure that we have over here, right? For that, we just renamed the step 2 name, right? Element name. Okay. And all right. And then apart from this, there are few other conditions, right? For example, conditional view. So let's say, for example, in your step 1, right? Let's say if user enters something which is your query is not finding any related data. For example, invalid input. And if you click on next, this is coming from the cache. Let me clear it. Okay. So let me just enter something and click on next. So we'll not get any results here, right? But if I check the debug, you can see in the latest debug that it should show some error. Okay. So here is error, right? We only got the error because the input that we entered was, I mean, it could not find anything any account where the name was that random letters that I entered, right? So those are part of conditional view. So in the next session, we'll see how we can handle conditional view on the Omniscript, how we can apply those conditions and how we can handle data in when wherein we have some conditions that we have to apply on the fields or any certain screens. All right. I think I will end this session now. As part of this session, you should be able to create DataRaptor Omniscript, then call your DataRaptor and in your Omniscript, and you should be able to pre-fill data in your Omniscript using the server call. All right. So that's it for this session. In the next session, we'll learn about the conditional view. Thank you for watching.